Okay, now we're going to work on markup, discount, tax, and we're going to find the tip when you need to leave somebody a tip. We'll do that in a few minutes. But first, I want to review with you what you do here. So say you're the owner of a store that sells socks, right? Sporting goods store, shoe store, clothing store, whatever. This is the amount that you pay to the manufacturer. You pay that amount. Well, in order for you to make a profit, you need to mark that amount up. If you sell it, if you buy it at this price and you sell that to the customers at that price, then you're not going to make any money and you'll go out of business. So you're going to mark it up 20%. So let's, instead of doing all the multiplication, do the add here. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be paying, the markup is 120% of the original price. Then you're going to convert this to a decimal. When we multiply by a decimal, not a percent. So we're going to take $4.95 and multiply it by 1.2, or you could put 1.20. So then you take, either by hand or with your calculator, $4.95 times 1.20 or 1.2, and you get exactly, $5.94. Sometimes you have to round. So this right here is the cost to the customer, or the price for the customer. Well, now you've had those socks for a while and you realize, uh-oh, I bought duds. So I'm going to have to put them drastically on sale to make room for more socks that people want. Discount means subtract. So this right here, I'm going to do this. This is now the new 100%. The discount means we're subtracting that percent. 100% subtract 43%. The customer's going to pay 57%. So we change that to a decimal. And now you're going to multiply $5.94 times 0.57. Now, your calculator or on your paper, it's going to read this. But we can only go to the hundredths place because that we're talking about dollars and cents. So that 5 will cause that 8 to round up to 39 cents. So this is now the sale price, $3.39. All right, you've decided, you've got a customer that's willing to buy these marked down socks, even though maybe they don't like them that well, but that price is a good price. So now when they go up to the register, they have to pay tax. And I don't know which state this is that only charges 1% tax, but you have to pay a 1% tax. Well, tax is paying more. So this sale price, the $3.39, is the new 100%, but we're also paying an additional 1%. So 100% plus 1% is 101%. And then we're going to convert that to a decimal. So we're going to multiply $3.39 times 1.01. And when we do that, so clear out your calculator, type $3.39 times 1.01, and that gives us 3.4239, but this too will not make that 4 round up, so it'll be $3.40. Remember, even though you just see 3.4, we have to go to the hundredths place. And this is now the total. I should just put total purchase price. So notice, markups, it's 100% plus the 20. And then when you get that amount, you're going to have the new 100%, subtract the discount percent. And then once you do all that, it will be the new 100%. And you add 1%. And that's what we did each time. All right. We're going to go back up and we're going to talk about finding tips. So let's say you go to a restaurant, not fast food, but to a restaurant, or you go to get your hair done. And any of the service industries, anytime somebody is providing you a service, you should leave a tip. So let's say taxi driver, or that might mean Uber or Lyft or some other car service. Okay, that's an example of somebody providing a service. Any type of hair, salon, or barber, that's a service. Let's see, wait staff at a restaurant. Okay, if you're at a hotel and a bellhop or somebody in the hotel carries up your luggage, that's a service. Or if you every day have the maids come in and clean your room, you need to leave the maids a tip. Okay, so the customary tip for decent, I should say decent service, fine service, nothing spectacular but decent, is usually, I think this is still the case, 15%. However, if somebody provides you excellent service, excellent service, I would start minimally at 20% and maybe actually go more than that. So for example, if you live in a really tiny town, right? If you live in a small town and there's somebody there that cuts hair, right? And if you don't go to that person, you have to drive, so you have to pay for gas. It takes more time because you have to drive, or your mom has to drive you, or dad, or something. So if you can get your hair cut in a small town and you like it, that person providing a service, we need to keep them in business. So I would recommend a larger tip if you can afford it. Now, not everybody can afford to tip more, but I would definitely recommend when you live in places, or when people go out of their way to do something exceptionally kind, and they're providing you a service, I would consider, 20 to 30% tip. Some people tip more than that. Sometimes very wealthy people will tip way more than that. But most of us aren't very wealthy, or aren't super wealthy. Let's put it this way. Okay, so you're just at a regular restaurant and you've had decent service. I think it would be fair to tip 15% and then convert that to a decimal. And it says that the meal that you ate, so you got a drink, you got a beverage, and maybe you got a salad or something, it totaled $22.50. So you want to know, not the total you're going to pay, you just want to know, well, how much tip do I leave? Well, if you decide you're tipping 15%, then you just multiply by the 0.15, and that will tell you how much the tip is. So you're going to either by hand, or if you're at a restaurant, you just use your phone calculator, $22.50 times 0.15. Now that says $3.37.5. This 7 causes that to round up, so that would be $3.37. $3.38. You might not want to leave some pennies, so you might decide to leave $3.40. But I'm going to go with the $3.38 is about a 15% tip. So now if you want to know, okay, well, that's the tip, but what's my total? Well, then add the amount of the bill. And this is assuming that there has been no tax. So this particular situation, there's no tax involved. So maybe you're in Oregon, in another state where you don't have to pay tax. So then you just add up the totals. So out of pocket, you paid $25.88, including the tip. All right. So let's say that you do live in a small town and you know that maybe there's not a lot of customers, but you don't want to have to drive an hour to get your hair done. I would recommend with going, if you can afford it, only if you can afford it. If you can only afford 15%, pay the 15%. That's adequate. That's fine. But if you can afford it, I would recommend maybe even 20 or 25%. So let's do a 25% tip this time. Let's find out how much that is. So we're going to move that there. All right. So we just multiply this amount by 0.25. So we take our $19 amount we have to pay, and we're going to times it by 0.25. And again, we've got something that's going to round. This 7 will cause that to round up. So that is $4.94 is the tip you're going to pay. And now we're going to add back in the $19.75, and that will be the total that you are paying that day. So you're paying a total of $24.69. And if you don't want, to count out pennies and you can afford it, just leave $25. And that means you gave a little bit more than 25. Or if you think, well, I gave more, I have 50 cents, then that's going to be pretty close to a 25% tip. Leave $24.50. They'll still be very, very grateful because you're tipping more than 15 or 20%. All right, that's it for how you find markup, tax, discount, and leaving somebody a tip.